Hello, everybody.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hi. So Christine Potter here with Mark McRae and David Franklin. We are going to talk copy with you today specifically. One of the things that came up in our last conversation was about headlines and subject lines and how you really hook people and bring them in. So that's part of what we're going to do. I'm gonna give it a moment here. There's a lot of folks. Peter, hi. Glad to see you. Oh, how do you pronounce that? Is that Euros? Euros? I don't want to mispronounce it, but it might be right. Uh, and hi, Mary. Glad to see you. If it's your first time here, awesome. Welcome. We're glad you're with us. If you're returning, also fantastic. We look forward to answering your questions. And what I will do right now is this is not going to be really formal. It's more of a conversation. And if you have questions about anything with regard to your copy, if you want to be a copywriter, if you want to know how we do what we do, leave us a question in the webinar box, and we will do our best to answer it. And if we answer it, what we will be doing is giving you, where's it at? Aha, there it is. We will be giving you your very own copy of Ogilvy on Advertising. We will get your information at the end of the webinar, and we will ship you your very own copy of this seminal work on advertising and copywriting. If you are a business owner or a marketer, this is one of the Bibles of what we do.
I know we didn't plan this, and so I'm throwing you under the bus here.
Oh, what are you doing?
If you're on last week and you got a copy of this, shoot us an email and let us know. Hey, you gave me a copy last week. I don't need two, and we'll come up with something epic. We'll just come up with something really cool, and we'll send you that instead. Right, Mark?
Yep.
He's paying the bill.
Absolutely.
You know, 2 copies of that, and we'll come up with something. But only if you say, hey, you gave me a copy last week, I don't want 2. What else you got? We'll come up with something that will be very, very beneficial.
Absolutely. So, as I said, today we are going to talk about what makes great headlines. Okay. And the first thing we're going to discuss is what is a headline? Because a lot of people have a lot of different ideas about what that is. But in the copywriting business, it's pretty specific. It's boiled down to a science as far as we're concerned, hence part of the name of our company, Scientific Copy. And we're going to speak with David Franklin, let him give us some chapter and verse about what is a headline and what makes a great one.
Okay, throw me under the bus. I threw you under the bus.
Ha ha ha.
You know, a headline has really one purpose and only one purpose. And there's a lot of elements to that I'm going to talk about a little bit. But, you know, the purpose of a headline is really just to pull you in to the first paragraph, whether it's the subhead or the first paragraph of the copy or whatever. The only purpose is to get you to start reading. But there's a lot of things that go into that. And, you know, probably the most important is to make sure that, you know, you are speaking to someone about a problem, or maybe it's a dream. I mean, I'm going to say problem, and, you know, Gary Bencivenga has always talked about, you know, problem, but he made it real clear that problem could be the dream of going on a cruise. It could be, you know, having a Ferrari in the garage. I mean, so it doesn't have to be like a problem like you know, what you see up on your screen right now. I'm going to talk about this headline in a minute. You know, memory, okay, that's a problem. But maybe it's, you know, how to get rich. Maybe it's, whatever. It could be a dream, it could be a hope, it could be, it's just whatever's really on their mind. And the most important part of a headline is to know who you're talking to. I mean, to understand the person you're trying to reach and the problem they're trying to solve. Because, they really don't give a crap about what you have to say. They don't give a crap about your ad. You're nothing but an intrusion. You're just somebody who's interrupting whatever is happening in their life, which leads us to the first thing it's got to do. It's got to interrupt. And it can't really interrupt rudely. And, we've all had that happen in our lives where somebody just, we're talking to somebody, they walk up, and that's not what it does. But it has to just pull them out of their mental fog in a way that makes them go, holy crap, this is the most important thing that's happening, in my life. I forget everything else, shut everything else off. This is important. And you do that by making sure that you're speaking about what they care most about, or at least something that they care deeply about, because that's how you're going to pull them out of this. I mean, I don't even know what the current figure is, but over the years it grows and grows, and now with the internet, but people are exposed to literally, I think probably maybe tens of thousands of advertising messages per day now. When you count all the social media they're on, everywhere they go, everything they do, they drive in the store, they see billboards, it's everywhere. At one point, the last number I think was somewhere around 5,000 messages a day, and that was many years ago. So I know it's increased. So, they're inundated with this stuff every day, and it just, they get numb to it. It's just a blur. You don't even see it because you don't care. But the minute something speaks to exactly the thing you care most about, it gets your attention in a heartbeat. So it's got to just scream at you off the page, that in a way that tells you, hey, this is something you care about. It's important to you. And I've got a solution for you. And a good headline does just that. And that's, I don't know who wrote this headline, and quite frankly, I mean, it was just maybe an hour ago that I said this, I want to talk about this. And whoever wrote this headline, hats off to you. I don't know who you are. I literally saw this, took a screenshot, and I actually asked the team last week, I said, what makes this so great? I'm just curious what the thoughts were. So I want to talk about this a little bit, because it's a good example of just making sure you're hitting the bullseye. And one of the biggest problems marketers have is they want to reach everybody. Oh, well, we want to reach people this and this and that. Always aim for the bullseye, because just like playing darts, you're not always going to hit the bullseye, but you always should aim at it. Who is your absolute best customer? Who is the person that needs what you're selling the absolute most? What do they care about the most? Who are they? What's keeping them up at night? And that's a big point here. What is keeping these people up at night? What literally are they laying there thinking about and not being able to go to sleep last night? And if you can reach out and, solve that problem for them, make that dream come true for them, you have their undivided attention, because it just kept them up all night last night. And as close as you can get to that, the better. Now, this particular headline does some amazing things as far as I'm concerned. So like I say, whoever wrote this, I don't know who you are. I didn't get your permission to show people this, but hats off to you as a copywriter, because there's some elements here that are really cool. And I'll go through them now. You have a call out to the audience you want to talk to, which is seniors. But more importantly in this, the genius of this is the word after it, because you've got your call out in the first word, and then in the second word, you've put a whole bunch of social proof into the mix, because you've said seniors rush. Well, if I'm a senior, what are all the other seniors rushing for? It's just like, what do they got? 1 million friends on Facebook? I mean, they're rushing. It's social proof. So you've got the call out to the right audience. You've got social proof in just 2 words. Then next you have to get newly approved. Now you've got real proof. Approved. Now, that probably means in this case, FDA approval, or real approval. It's approved. It's not snake oil, folks. And then one of the biggest concerns, and I can relate to this big time because I have a father-in-law who has dementia, memory. One of the biggest problems people face as they age. So far, we've got the call out to the exact audience, social proof involved with the next word involving seniors rushing, newly approved, we've got solid proof there. Now, memory, that is the problem they're having. Now you've got the word pill. What does that mean? It's easy. Take a pill, not do 50 minutes of, cardio a day, or, just take a pill. Beautiful headline, short, and it's got every element. And then you got a subhead under clinical trials show users taking active ingredients see remarkable increase in brain function within days. So now we've got clinical trials, more proof. Show it, and then show users taking this, seeing a remarkable increase in brain function within days. So it happens quick, fast, exactly what you want, and it's clinical trials, which backs up the newly approved. More proof. Then this is a brilliant part, because this is a headline that was used in newspapers. It could be used anywhere, but you hit, say, Miami Herald. Now you've got more social proof, because this is the paper, obviously, they're reading. And they believe what's in that newspaper because it's news, it's true, it's what they read every day. And so you're talking to them. Miami Herald readers have 48 hours. Oh my goodness. Now we have, urgency. I've only got 48 hours to get special discount. So now I've got a discount too. I mean, this headline and subhead has a lot going for it if you're talking to seniors with memory problems. There's a lot of them. Pretty darn good ad. We're not talking about the rest of the ads, so I won't go into the rest. But this is a great example. Now, this won't fit everything anybody's doing, but it's just a great example of using a call out to the proper audience. I think my buddy Bob's on here, I think. And let's face it, if you're in a busy train station, airport, wherever, and somebody goes, "Hey, Bob," you know what, Bob? You're going to turn around. Well, seniors is getting real close to that, right? If you're a senior. So like I said, had the social proof, newly approved, memory, that's the problem. Pill, easy. It's just got all those elements in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 words. That's a nice headline. But the main point of a headline, and what makes headlines work, and what's important, is that you make sure you've done enough homework, that you're speaking to your exact audience about their exact problem, the thing they want to solve, overcome, the dream they have, whatever it is, and you're showing them that it's going to be painless, fast, easy. The whole point of a headline is to suck them in. There is no other point. If you try to sell in a headline, you'll lose. If you try to say too much in a headline, you might lose. If you try to get the whole job done with the headline, you might lose. A good headline on a newspaper ad, all the way to a long form 60-page online sales ad page, is simply to yank them out of their fog and tell them that, hey, what I have to say is about you. It's about your current problem, the thing you're trying to solve, the thing you care about most in life, and I have a real solution that you're going to want to hear about.
Okay.
I could go on for about 4 more hours, because you guys know me, but I won't.
Well, we already have a couple of questions, and it's interesting because 2 of them pretty much say the same thing. Wes said something, and Mary both said essentially that they worry about being too hypey in a headline. Let me read it. Let me read the one question I got exactly to make sure I got it right. I sometimes wonder if my headlines are too hypey. If I feel it, surely my readers do too, right? Any advice on avoiding hype in headlines? I'm in the real estate market. Thanks.
I heard something just recently, and I might misquote this, but it was basically that if I don't believe what my readers, or what I'm writing, if I don't believe what I'm writing, my readers won't either. There's a difference between Well, hype, that's kind of a weird word because it has a negative connotation, I think, with a lot of people, yet it's really not. I think that truth screams loudly, and is evident in, I think when people read something, they know if it's, people have a BS meter. So if that hype is setting their BS meter, to the, red line, yeah, that's not good. But if you are speaking to the right people, the people who care about what you're selling, and you are speaking to them about a real problem they have, and you're talking about a real solution, I don't think you can be too hypey, because, probably solving their problem or making their dreams come true, is the most important thing in their life. And the more excited, and so I'm going to replace hype with that, the more excited you can be about that, I think the better. I mean, breaking news is, pretty big, old headlines. They're hypey. If you look at the newspapers, the New York Times, the Wall Street, I don't care where, those headlines are, they want to suck you in as good as they can. If you don't care about it, you're going to go, oh, yeah. I mean, let me give you an example. And I mean, I'm sorry to use this, but it is one of the most brilliant headlines ever. Attention hemorrhoid sufferers. That ad ran on TV, it ran on radio for, I don't know, probably decades. Most of you don't remember it because you didn't have hemorrhoids. If you did, guess what? So I guess hype is only hype if you don't care, or if it is bullshit, or if it isn't true and is obviously some made up stuff. If it is a real solution and you're really, helping the people you're talking to, the more hypey, the better. Because again, going back to what we talked about, you got to get them out of mental fog. They've got so much going on. They've got their Facebook is open. Somebody just let them a voicemail saying, hey, damn it, I got to, know what's going on right now. They've got, somebody called them on the phone. I mean, I'm sorry, that was me there. They've got all this stuff going on in their life, and they see this, and if it's not hypey, I mean, if it doesn't just grab them by the throat, literally, and say, hey, this is super important to exactly what you care most about, or what's bothering you, you gotta do this right now. So hypey works. I'm sorry to say that, but hypey works all day long. The more the better. And I mean, some niches are going to be much different than others. I mean, that said, still, don't be a wallflower. Do not be shy. You have something to say. People want to hear it.
Well, one thing I would point out in the example that we have up on the screen, really the only word that you could point to in that main headline that is hype related would be the word rush. And as far as hype goes, that's not huge. That's fairly low key on the hype meter. But what it does is it hits these buttons. Rush, sense of urgency, newly approved, ooh, it's new, memory pill, it will solve my problem. It checks off all the boxes. And one thing I would point out that, I don't know if David said this explicitly, but with this particular ad, yes, it's targeted to seniors rush, but it doesn't say if you're a senior, you need, which a lot of people think they need to do. In this case, it covers even more people because seniors rush to get newly approved. Think how big your audience is if you're not just talking to seniors, but everybody who knows a senior, who's having memory problems, like David's father-in-law. Those people are all going, wait, could this help grandma?
Well, I think you make a good point. I mean, what you have to remember is that, your your target audience is sometimes it's very narrow, sometimes it's very broad, but it goes back to what I said about aiming for the bullseye. You've got to figure out who your absolute best prospect is, and just talk to them. In this case, it's seniors. Now, yeah, you could say seniors and children of seniors, but you know what? That's just wasting words, really, because aim at the bullseye. I would have seen this ad, and I'm a good example and maybe that's why this ad jumped at me. I mean, I just saw this recently. I have no idea who wrote it. I probably, don't even have the permission to have it up here. So I'm just bragging for them. Whoever they are, feel free to come on and say, hey, it's mine. I'm a great copywriter. You are a great copywriter. The thing is that, seniors is the bullseye. Now, as my father-in-law is at the point where he wouldn't even ever see this ad. And if he did, it wouldn't make sense to him probably. Yet, with us dealing with the things we're dealing with, if I saw this ad, it would absolutely speak to me. And I'm not, okay, all right, maybe I'm a senior. Okay, I live in a senior community. Okay, I'm a senior, but I'm not I forgot what I was going to say. No, I'm
That's
kidding.
okay.
I don't need a memory pill yet. But if I saw this, I would think, well, I wonder if that can help Dad. So, it hit the bullseye, and maybe I'm the ring outside the bullseye or the next one. But guess what? When you're playing darts, those really count too. You don't always have to hit the bullseye, but if you come close, and they would come close, I'd be right outside the bullseye, and I would say, oh, this is for me.
Right.
Because
I think just on that hype thing. I mean, if the ad said 70-year-old man memorizes the phone book and bench presses 350 pounds after taking a memory pill, hype. But it's what David said about it's got to contain the truth. So if, in other words, if it says seniors are doubling, tripling, or quadrupling their cognitive skills after taking memory pill, it's hypey, but there's the truth in there. It could be in there. And everything that David said.
That would have to be true, or you'd go to jail if you said that.
Exactly.
Right? And that's the thing. Tell the truth. Who said this? Maybe you can help me, Mark. It's one of the greatest advertising quotes I ever heard, and I'm not sure who said it, but it was actually on a wall and a sign, and it said, "Tell the truth and make it fascinating." And I think that's it in a nutshell. Don't make anything up. Always tell the truth, but make the truth fascinating.
And just on that, before we move on, if you were doing below the line advertising, if you were doing direct mail or you were doing print, then you would use seniors. If you had the budget and you were online, you might test 50-year-old women rush to get, and then 50-year-old men rush to get, and then go up by the decades, 50, 60, 70, until you hit the sweet spot and target even more, which is hard to do. But a great example of a good headline.
Yeah, one thing I want to speak to.
See, Mark
really
likes to
quickly
get it in the center of the bullseye. He doesn't just want he wants to right there in the middle, and then he wants to put the next dart, split that first dart right in half, like you see in the cartoons.
Now, one thing I would speak to, because Wes asked, I think it was Wes, specifically about real estate. I was in real estate. I marketed real estate for 12 years. So in most cases, real estate, you tend to get very hung up on features. You get very hung up on neighborhood, bedrooms, fireplaces, acreage, right? Instead of being hung up on the features and making those your headline, put yourself in the shoes of the person who's looking to buy the property, not the seller. Even though in most cases, at least here in the United States, you are contractually bound. If you're the listing agent, you have to have a fiduciary responsibility to the seller. But put yourself in the buyer's shoes. What's that buyer want? Does that buyer want to sink into the enormous garden jacuzzi tub in the master suite? Does that buyer want to have a full basement family and entertainment room where they can send the kids and not hear them? You know, there are a million possibilities. And again, like Mark said, if you have the budget and the ability to test, then you can find out and hit that bullseye a lot more closely. And it's true in real estate or any business, particularly if you're the person who's made the product or is very involved in the product, you can get too caught up in the features and not think about what those benefits of those features are for the buyer. It's not enough just to list everything that's there. You've got to tell them why it matters to them. Okay.
And, you know, it's interesting. Well, just on that, just for a minute, and we're gonna, at some point in the future, we're gonna go way into benefits versus, you know, just features, and probably break it down in a way that you've never seen as far as my "so you can" rule, but we won't get into that today. But one of the things that it was Gary Bencivenga, you know, a benefit headline, a headline that has a direct benefit that your target audience would want, will always win out over, say, a curiosity benefit. You know, it's real fun to do a curiosity headline. And what Gary said about that was, though, that, I mean, probably 8 times out of 10, the benefit headline will win over a curiosity headline. But he said in those magical times when you have the ability to mix a true benefit, and like I say, we'll dive deep into benefits in the future, a true benefit headline with a curiosity, and you can incorporate both of those into a headline. He says you pretty much have a winner. And I would agree, you know, and it's hard to do. As you go forward, you'll find that those two things are hard to put together sometimes. And it's those magic moments when you can that you end up with a solid winner.
Hey. I hate to cut you off, David. I know you could talk in great depth and length about headlines, but we still have a bunch of statistics and a headline workshop to go through here. And we want to make sure everybody gets everything. So, Mark, I'm going to hand things over to Mark with regard to statistics. I just called it stats and such to be cute.
Good.
One thing to think about in headlines, by the way, alliteration. So Mark is going to share some testing results and the importance of those with regard to headlines.
Okay, so over the next 3 slides, these are a couple of examples of some of 2 sales pages, and we're looking at a heat map. Now, there's different types of heat map. You can get a heat map that looks at clicks to see where on the page something has been clicked and how many times it's been clicked, and or also you've got mouse movement, and lastly we've got scroll. So mouse movement is as somebody's reading the page, if their hand is moving and it's on top of the mouse, you're going to see where that is. And the idea is that if they're stopped for a long time or they're focused on one part, that copy is better than the rest. I'm not a big fan of that. Also clicks I'm not that much a fan of because people tend to click their mouse by accident half the time. But what I do like is when people scroll. So when we compare different sales pages, and if you're looking at this one here, you'll see that you've got the headline part, and then you'll see on the left-hand side it says average fold, and 80% of the visitors reach this point. All right, so that means if you're writing a good headline for a sales page, 80% of the people who are there should get past the headline. And as you go down, the colors go from red, yellow, blue, all the way down to gray and basically nothing. And what you're looking for at each stage or page of your sales page is what percentage of people are still reading it, are still there. And in this particular sales page, by the time we get to the first call of action, we've got something like 30 to 35% of the people who entered still reading. All right, so That's a good sales page. That copy has drawn them in. There's a natural fall off after you get past that first 80%. And one of the ways I can tell whether the sale page is working or not is, are 80% of the people getting past the headline? Now, if you bring up the next one, Christine. Now, you see, here's another example. Not just maybe on the borderline of 80% of people get past the headline, but you'll see even above the fold, 50% of the people have gone, right? So what comes after the headline is not good copy. Well, it's not that it's not good copy, it's not enticing the reader to get farther down. And you can see this turns blue, which is telling you that it's dropping off very quickly. So before we go on to the next slide, that's important to realize that if you're using technology or you're using something to measure how good a headline is or how enticing it is, some of the numbers we look at are, you got to get 80% of the people past that your headline and a past, in a perfect world, beyond the fold. That's something's happening there. And if you're losing half the people before they get past the fold, there's something wrong. So if you go to the next slide, Christine. Now this is the same sales page. And you'll see this line here is at the 50% mark. So only 15% of the people who landed in that page got halfway through the sales page. So what does that tell you? It's almost impossible to make money. Because by, I didn't want to make too many slides, but by the time they got to the first call of action, there's only 4% of the people there. So the numbers that you would have to do would be phenomenal in order to try and make money from this type of sales page, right? And sometimes this can be the first draft. We might go back, we might fix it, but by comparing where people are scrolling to and where they are leaving the sales page is a good indication of how important or how much they're relating to the copy. But the most important thing to remember is, and what I've experienced and observed is, the stronger the headline, the higher the percentage of people who go farther down, right? So, and sometimes the headline could be an image, right? Sometimes it has to be visually interesting in the beginning to interrupt them, to get them to go farther down into the copy. And I was having a conversation with a friend yesterday who's in the, you build 6 abs. He's in the health and fitness space. And they're driving something like 30,000 people to a page per day. Now, if you go to the page, it's not that interesting. The copy is not that great, but they're using brute force. So they know how much that 30,000 people cost them, and they know how much they earn from that product, and they arbitrage the difference. They don't care so much. But most markets aren't like that. You're going to have to persuade, you're going to have to put your argument forward, you're going to have compelling copy that tells a good story. But go on, Christine.
I was just going to say, we have a question specifically about heat maps. This is from, make sure I get this right. This is from Euros. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm not sure. Love the heat map, have used similar in the past. What can I do to encourage visitors to get further down the page, especially when I find a zone where, according to the heat map, there's a sharp drop off?
Well, that's, first of all, is to identify where the issue is. I mean, if there, sometimes there's no issue. Sometimes there's fantastic copy and it gets them, everything does their job. But there is a certain percentage that you would look for. For example, even in a video, if you're using technology like Wistia, you'll see that nearly all of the videos fall off a cliff, but you're aiming to get somewhere between 10 to 25% of the people who start the video to get to the end, to have the numbers to try and make a sale. So what can you do to improve that fall off is think of every paragraph as trying to get them to the next point. And a good analogy they used to use in the old days, is probably not politically correct now, is that if you're dating a girl, first of all, you take them to dinner. And then you'd have another move. Maybe you could take them from dinner and you could take them to a bar. And then from the bar, you could invite them home, or you would suggest there's a process of telling that story. So if the story is compelling enough, if the people who you've identified who are reading this are the right target audience, that's the most important thing. But assuming they're the right target audience, and it's really, is your story good enough? And you got to think of it, when I write copy, every paragraph has got to get them to the next. Because once you disrupt them over a certain time, and there's numbers there, and I think that number's 3 minutes-ish. But if people are glancing everywhere, so one of the reasons, and we're going to get to this just now, is when you look at a headline, it should contain keywords for that target audience, is because their brain will register some keywords and stop. So they'll give you a little bit of attention. So if you get to the next paragraph, they give you a little bit more, and before they know it, they're involved in your story. So you've got to constantly look and analyze where your copy is and get them to that next stage until you've got them on the slide. And that's where great copy is. You don't want to interrupt those thoughts as they're on that slide to the way to a sale.
Okay, and evidence. I think so. Yeah, I think there's other, there are certain things that people think about when I'm assembling a page like this or doing something like this. I always call them Jenga blocks, which really isn't the best analogy, but it's what works in my head. And a combination sometimes of video, where you've got something where, ooh, I can see this next thing. If I go watch this next thing, sometimes that is a way, it's kind of a quick and dirty way, really, to keep them on the page that doesn't require you to have crafted perfection in your words. Preferably, you want perfect words and great video. That's what you're really going for. But you could do a little of both. Now, evidence of, I'm going to show you something because I threw this in here. This was yesterday. We did a test because I wanted to see the power of this particular subject line. And I have done this. I don't do this very often. You cannot pull this kind of a thing out of your hat very often. If you do it very often, it'll lose its effect. Okay, but F your way to the top. Okay, 95% of the English speaking world is going to think they know what that F word is, right? And it's not one you could print. But the second subject line that we tested, watch a rich man make his money live. Okay, so we have these two. The first one, the blue one, took out the other one by a massive amount, 26.92% on that. Now look at the impact though on what it did through the click-through rate. Okay, not only did it do a 26.92% better open rate, but the click-through, and the only difference on these two emails was the subject line. Nothing else changed. The click-through rate went up 28.55% just between.
We've seen that over the years. Mark and I saw that a lot because it used to kind of piss me off because there were days where he was tied up, busy, and I'd write copy and thinking we were going to do a split test, and come to find out he didn't, he was busy with other things. So he would just throw another subject line on my copy and kick my ass. And he didn't change a word of the email. And so, yeah, I mean, we've seen, this is not a fluke, because it's why I wanted to bring this up. I mean, I've seen this over and over. We've done this many times. I've done it with you, Christine. I mean, Mark did it with me. I've done it with you. I mean, we've done this so many times where that subject line, and I think we've seen the same thing in a headline change where maybe the subject line, and maybe we took a minute to tweak the headline, didn't touch another thing, and seen this kind of massive difference. So that's interesting that you said. I didn't realize when I saw these results, I commented to you, Christine, about your subject line because it made me laugh that it did well. And I had no idea those were the same email. But we've seen this over and over. I mean, just the mentality of what they went in expecting based on the subject line changed their whole thought process as they read that email, which is crazy.
Well, it's the power of humor, plus it's the power of curiosity. Because this particular market, this is in the finance niche. This is a very heavily testosterone-driven market. Okay, so yes, there are some women in it, but 90% of the people opening this email are guys.
Yeah.
And they're going to see that, and they're going to be like, "Oh, cool. Okay, let me see what that is." And when you get there, what you find out is that the F word is fail. Fail your way to the top. And I reveal that right away in the email. But it gives you that a little bit of a laugh, a little bit of a wink, and it changes the subject's mental state going in. And when you're talking about direct response emails, you can't overstate the importance of the subject line because it's really your first headline. If they don't open it, anything else you've written is useless. So getting them to click it open is super important. And you can't be gimmicky all the time. Like if I did this every day or even once every couple of weeks, it would lose its ability to be effective. I pull it out maybe once every 8 months. I might do something that's kind of cheeky on another day, but not like this. This is very in your face, and you just can't do this all the time. So just wanted to share that because that literally just happened yesterday. It was pretty interesting.
I want to back up just a little to when Mark was talking. If you're using the tools and you're looking at heat maps and stuff, and we talked quite a bit about word you. I think that, if you were using those tools, I mean, if you're not testing to every, in every way you possibly can, you need to be. But when you see a sharp drop, when you go from the kind of drops Mark just showed you, I mean, where you've got a headline, you've got everybody, and now the subline, and then you get to this point, and 15% of the people are still there, 10% of the people are still there. But those are set up. I mean, if you ever used them, there's a lot of places, in between the top and the bottom. And if you see a sharp drop immediately, then that is the place to key in on and test. If your headline is working great and the subhead, and then everybody drops off after your first paragraph, then focus on that first paragraph because you grabbed them and then they went away. I mean, and so with the proper testing, you see exactly when they went away. That's the place to tweak and test. That might be, that's a great indicator. The problem is here. Let's fix the problem.
Right. But today we're going to keep on headlines. And what we've got here, I don't know if we'll go through all of these, but we have a selection of headlines. Some of them are things that came from sales pages we've done for clients. Some of them have been from VSLs. Some have been from emails. We kind of ran around and cherry picked a few things. And what we want to do is get your feedback on these. Do you think it's a good headline or not? And specifically, what do you think the keyword or words and the hook, the hot button of the headline is? So here's the first one. Download my free report and learn the exact process I use to generate over $25 million using sample sales funnels that creates raving fans who can't wait to buy again and again. Okay. So
that's a long headline.
This was just what I was going to say. That's a long headline. That's
one of the longest, yeah.
But a long headline is not necessarily a bad headline because this thing's loaded with information. Free report, exact process, 25 million, sales funnel, buy again and again. If you're skimming, those are going to be the ooh. Oops, I just blew the pop quiz. Okay, we're going to do a few of these. So for this one,
You know,
yeah.
there's a couple of things in this, though. I mean, download, and it's kind of funny because, you know, that means, okay, I can grab this now, and then
Right.
free. So, I mean, it's the download free report, basically. But download free report, that tells me that I can grab this right now and it's not going to cost me anything. So right there, it's like, okay, I have nothing to lose by reading the rest of this headline.
Yep. Well, most of the people agree that free report and 25 million. So it's give me the free thing and show me how to make a lot of money. And you're absolutely right that those are things. But one other thing is if you're looking for something easy, exact process, someone's going to show me exactly what they did to make $25 million. So hopefully it makes it kind of dummy proof. It gives me a way that I can just do it. Simple sales funnel. It's easy. Okay. And I'm going to get return customers again and again. Anything else you'd like to say about this, Mark?
No, I think they've got the point of,
Okay.
and go back to that question about hype earlier on. All markets are different. You know, people who are have a medical problem tend to read copy a lot more intensely than other people. People who are concerned about their health, they're very concerned of what the ingredient says and how it's been tested and whether it's safe or it's not safe. And there's a different type of psychology going on there. So this would be for a financial business type lead. So it's kind of in between. We wouldn't be overly hypey, but it wouldn't be dull either.
Yep. This one is another business related one. Now, note, one thing that's different here is there are no quotation marks on this one. Some people are of the school that quotation marks should be around every headline. Not everybody necessarily agrees with that. So I'm going to show you a remarkably effective and amazingly simple way to improve your profits and cut your cost in your business, and at the same time give you more freedom than you ever thought possible. People are typing. See what everybody says. Okay. Simple way, improve your profits, cut your costs, more freedom. Oh, and effective and simple way to improve. Okay. So they're keying in on results and ease of use. And, you know, this one is one of those ones where it almost hits every possible button because it gets results. It's really easy. It makes you more money. It cuts your costs, which also makes you more money, and frees up your time.
You know, I think any business owner, cut your cost, you know, improve your profits, cut your cost. I mean, you know, those two things are almost kind of like in the wrong order, just not in the headline. But, you know, most business owners think I cut costs and I grow profits. So, I mean, that line alone, and it's like I say, they normally cut their costs to improve profits. But flip-flopping it works great but I mean, improve your profits, cut costs. It's language they understand.
Right.
You know, all the other things are wonderful things, you know, effective, simple, you know, amazingly, by the way, is just it's kind of a magical word. Amazing, amazingly, any of those, it's just one of those words that always kind of works. But you know, you've got right in the middle of this fairly long headline, you improve your profits and cut your cost. So right, that line, right in the dead center of this, they could have said it to you. What do you want to do? Well, I'd like to increase profits and cut costs, because that's just what they're always told as business people they need to do to make more money.
Right.
Just to finish off on that, Christine, real quickly, I mean, if you think of David Ogilvy, he was against any type of, inverted text, reverse text, or he wasn't a big fan of capitalizing the first letter of each word. But it's about testing. So, for example, putting things in inverted commas when it's appropriate can give you a 4% lift. Just that simple act. But if you don't want to make it look like a headline and just it's a headline, but you don't want to make it look like that, you might not have it. The last thing is, amazingly, and this is actually something we have to be aware of, and not so much copywriters nowadays, but most copywriters would have used incredible in an email because amazing was a spam word.
And they don't know what incredible word means, because if they looked it up, they'd never use it.
Right. So there's, some copywriters are so focused on emails that they're almost trained to write in a certain way, and they have to forget all that when they write a headline, and let their imagination go wild. Right.
I have to admit, I'm one of those people who's guilty of the incredible versus amazing, because when you run your emails, we used to run. You don't have to do it so much anymore. But we used to run everything through spam check, and amazing would be flagged every day of the week. So we don't have time to go through all of these. I know that. So let me find, here's a shorter one. Okay. Nobody at any level of business should spend another penny until they watch this video.
I'm kind of curious. There's a missing on this, and I'm curious.
There's a what on this?
There's a missing in this headline, in my opinion. Just throwing that out.
Give him a chance before you tell him that.
I like to mess with them.
Okay, I've got stuff coming in. I apologize. I keep looking away because so I can have full screen and you guys can see everything on my PowerPoint. I'm looking at the message things coming through on my phone so that I can get both and you guys can see everything. Let's see. Well, got some people are like, the whole headline's great. The whole thing's awesome. Makes them want everything. Then I've got don't spend another penny. And then somebody's nobody should spend a penny until they watch the video, which is basically just boiling the whole thing down. So the short one for the folks who are on right now, they think the whole thing works. So
the only
David,
comment I have about this, the only comment I have about this is, it's not a bad headline, except that I'm, a penny on what? For example, let's say you do Facebook. That's your thing. You teach people how to advertise better on Facebook. I'm just pulled that out because Facebook, I'm not on Facebook that much, but I know the rest of the world is. So, this headline could be, nobody at any level of business should spend another penny on Facebook advertising until they watch this video. Nobody at any level a business should spend another penny on newspaper advertising until they watch the video. Nobody at any level of business should spend another penny on their, or give another penny to their attorney, to their accountant, to their business manager. I don't care until they watch this video. Nobody at any level of physical training, weight loss, whatever, should spend another penny until they watch this video. Spend another penny on what? That's the missing in this headline. Now you put the penny on this, and you make sure that the on this is the bullseye of who you're talking to. You got a winner.
All right. We see. Oh, this one. This lawyer spent years becoming the best marketer in his niche and now makes millions without ever stepping in a courtroom. His strategies and lots more can be yours. Now, this is to
I don't think whose headline that is. I know
marketing.
that one.
I can tell you, but not yet. But it's to a marketing and sales specific thing. It's almost a B2B, but it's for people who are looking to market specifically. Oh, we've got fast and furious things coming in here. Hold on. Make millions. His strategies can be yours. Oh, and another nice comment. Great headlines, getting a lot of ideas. That's good. That's what this is for. Now, if I had the ability, because I have the PowerPoint on full screen, so I can't edit it while I'm in full screen. If I had the ability to do that, what I would do is go in and make the keywords another color. Usually a dark red, sometimes a blue. This particular one had blue as its keyword thing, because sometimes blue tests better than red. Let's see, we have any others?
I'm going to assume
this
this
whole
headline was totally directed at other attorneys who wanted to buy his, his marketing program for attorneys. And if so,
well,
I think it would, and again, it goes back to, that's the bullseye. Do I care about this? No.
Well, the thing is,
if I'm an attorney trying to grow my practice, do I care about this? Holy crap, yes. Care a bunch.
Well, I think if you're a marketer, you care about this too, not just a lawyer. Because what you're saying is he never had to step in a courtroom and he made millions because he became a great marketer.
Yeah, but I think that lawyers trying to market their practice is the bullseye here. There's no question about that. And I think it works for them.
Okay. We've got one person who says, I like the whole headline. Nothing specific jumps out at me, just very well connected. Well, apparently I wrote this headline, and apparently I missed the bullseye a little bit by David's estimation, because this was for people who were in a marketing specific niche, not a law specific niche. And this was when we were doing the Halbertology stuff and we were having Nader and Neeson. And it was him talking about the direct mail.
Now, like I said, I think if you sent this to every attorney trying to grow their practice in the United States, you'd have something, because that's what they want.
I will tell you that Nader definitely effectively did that.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Which is why we had him on. Why we had him on. Anything you want to say about this, Mark?
No, I think she's covered it pretty good.
All right, let's see. How spending time selling insurance turned him from a failure to a 9-figure success story, and how you can do it with a lot less time, money, and effort.
That one baffles me a bit.
Well, the point was that they weren't all supposed to be slam dunks. There's supposed to be things here we can improve on.
That's my point, and I know that. So I do have inside information. not any stock tips. I'm sorry, you guys. But yeah, again, who are you talking to here? And this is a good example of if you're talking to insurance salespeople, or who is this for? Do you know the background of this headline? I
do. It's for the same niche that the last one was.
Okay.
I think if you looked at it, if you how spending time selling insurance does work, right? So it might turn people off. If you reworded it and said the one daily habit that turned him from a failure into a 9-figure success story, or mentioned millions, and then a headline generally where it's got that 9-figure, where there's a number you want it to be in the same line, right? Because the brain, it separates that as it goes through it, and you can do it with a lot less time, money, and effort. And that would be how spending time from a failure would be a trigger word for people. So failure to a 9-figure success would be trigger words, and how you can do it, and how you can do it would be highlighted. With less time would be a highlight, money and effort also. So there's the makings of something there. And that's the thing about, just two things, is headlines. You know, when I write a headline, I'll write 10 or 20, and sometimes I'll give them to the team or show them to anybody who will listen and say, which ones do you like? And if it's important, we'll all discuss the headline. So we'll come up with something good. And my whole point about measuring stuff is, if there's anybody listening who wants to be a copywriter, be a copywriter. Don't give up. You know, you can do it. But we are blessed and also cursed in our group that we don't really need all of the figures, because we're each other's police. If I write very bad copy, Christine and David will eat me alive that day, right? I mean, you can't be half pregnant as a copywriter. So, but if you're an individual, one of the problems that I see is people put a shingle outside and say, I'm a copywriter, and then they'll go write copy. And then the only way they have of measuring it is whether the client says that it's good and they don't know, or whether it makes sales. And you really need a way of trying to improve yourself, especially in the early years. You know, do work for free. You know, just keep writing, but and talk to other people. You know, get in a group of 2 or 3 people who you think their honest opinion is worthwhile listening to, and it would be things like this. I'll give you an example of David and I were writing VSL, and in this one particular VSL, I was in a zone that day, and even I thought I had written a great VSL. And when David read it, he says, "Oh shit, it's going to destroy me." And when we tested it, David's VSL tested much better than my VSL. And that's the thing with copy, right? There's so many angles to it, but nothing. You know, people vote with their feet. They either buy stuff or they take an action and things like that. And you got to get in an environment where you don't become so isolated that you think your copy's good, because you'll always get knocked down to size.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's happened
Very
between
much
you
so.
and I many times over the years, Mark.
Very much so. I just
Where
had it happen a
oh
couple of days
crap,
ago.
and sure enough, then I mean, and I think I've said it to everybody on this team, you know, when we've had these discussions, you know, and probably after these many lessons that you just described, Mark, is now I just say, well, the market will decide, because that is it. I mean, you can think you've got, and I'll say that another way, Mark. I remember talking a lot of smack back in the day, back and forth, and I felt a bit overconfident once or twice because I just thought I'd written something killer, and I read yours, because you know you were in different time zones and you put yours up, and I grabbed yours and read it after I wrote mine and went, I'm gonna kick his ass. And I like would even Skype you, you're going down, buddy. And then I just avoided you the next day after I saw the results, because I didn't want to be humiliated. And it just happens. The market will decide. You can't decide. The market will decide.
I literally had this happen 2 days ago. I wrote something that I would have sworn to you was going to be a slam dunk. And Brad beat me by 43% or something. It was insane.
It just happens.
Yeah. So you never know. And that's why we test. That is why we test. So this is the last one of these we'll do. And this one I want to keep up because it's very specific. Okay. Because if you don't know, if you're not the intended audience for this, I think in the first 3 words, we lose them. Okay. I am in DR pros, business owners, and copywriters. Learn how you could earn up to 6 figures a day from a single VSL or make millions with Facebook and YouTube. That's a whole lot of stuff in one headline. It's amazing it's that short. But if you are not an internet marketer, if you are not a direct response professional, maybe you get to business owner, right?
Maybe I'm
What
just
are you
slow,
laughing
but
about, Mark?
because I didn't know what IM and DR meant there.
Well,
I was trying to figure it out.
don't assume, right? That's
Yeah.
the lesson here. I am to assume
so
everybody knows that. Don't ever assume. It's the old thing. When you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. I learned that from a guy at a Texaco station when I was 14. No, that's another story for another day.
I don't think it's a point of whether I mean, if somebody thinks about it, they'll probably get it. But if they have to think about it, then it's not a good headline.
It's over, yeah.
So I would start that headline from learn how you could earn up to 6 figures a day from a single, and I would say video, not VSL, or make millions with Facebook and YouTube, because they might not know what a VSL is.
Yep. And from the folks that are on here, they targeted the earn up to 6 figures, make millions as the important part. But they're reading the whole thing because we're asking them to read it. So
we're really messing with people, guys, because everybody else shows all this perfect work and all the great headlines and all the winners, and I mean, it's so easy to find that stuff. And here we are going, this could be better. But hey, we do this every day, so we're telling you like it is, instead of telling you the same crap you've heard over and over.
Now we have another question. Peter wants to know, have you ever tested blue underlined words in a headline, which is going to look like a hyperlink, I assume. Oops, I assumed. I mean, make some words look like a hyperlink to encourage clicks. I think that might work great on banners. What do you think? Well, banners, a banner is a different thing than a copy headline. So I'll put that out there for you guys. What would you say, Mark?
It depends on your audience, because up until about 3-4 years ago, everybody who was on the internet knew and understood that if it was a blue underlined text, it was a link that you clicked. But millennials are not used to that. They may be fairly aware of it, but for them, they'll click anything. So if it was 3 years ago, a banner with the blue underlined text would have a higher click-through rate. And if you tested it today, depending on the market, if it was a general weight loss market, it wouldn't need to be underlined. And 5 years ago, the trend was to have your copy as red. And remember, the headline should be disruptive. So people would use a deep red to make it look more aesthetically pleasing, which was a mistake. Then people started testing blues and greens. And generally, if you've got a winning headline and then you test it with blue or green, you're going to get a different result, sometimes better. Now the sort of trend is to highlight the keywords or the important words in a headline, so that if somebody glances at it, that target market will recognize those words and go in.
Yep. So the other thing, now when you, like, people who use WordPress, and so many people use WordPress for their blogs and their pages, that as long as it's in another color and maybe the word is in a slightly different font, that's just an automatic
good point
trigger that, oh, that thing I can click on, that's a clickable thing.
And I know that this changes, but I think there's human behavior stuff that doesn't. And I've said this to you and Brad many times over the years, when you've had some, what I have always called cleverly disguised links in your emails, because they're blue and they're underlined and they look like a link. If you want me to click here, tell me to do it. And that can be learn more here. And quite frankly, to this day, if I've got the right paragraph ahead of it, nothing has beat a link that says learn more here. But click here. I mean, tell them what you want to do. Hey, if you want to go make millions of dollars in your pajamas before 8 o'clock in the morning every day and relax the rest of the day by your pool, click here. Click here. That's blue and underlined. In other words, do not if you want someone to click on a link, don't cleverly disguise it as something else. say, click here. It doesn't hurt you to do so, and it sends it through the roof. And that's the important lesson that people have forgotten. They try and be so clever and so creative. They forget that once you've taken somebody and you've shown them that, hey, here might be a solution for you, they forget to tell them what to do next.
Right.
Most important thing in every offer ever created, here's what to do. And the more you can spell it out and the easier you can make it for people, the more it will happen. So if you want somebody to click here, tell them, click here to learn more. Click here to find out how to make millions while you sleep. I mean, not that you can ever do that. It doesn't, but you know what I mean.
Now,
Well, that
point taken.
Everything in between.
Point taken.
Everything in between.
Okay, we are running a little long, so I'm going to force us to move forward. So one thing that we figured a lot of people would want to know, particularly if you're not a copywriter, if you're a business owner, and I know we do have business owners on here from the questions that we're getting, how do you find good headline fodder? If you're not a copywriter, if you are not steeped in the stuff that we're steeped in, how do you find great things? And for modern audiences, everybody's, so many people who are doing online. You can look at Reddit, Twitter, YouTube. There's a great little swipe file place, and a swipe file, for those who haven't been with us before, is the copywriter's best friend. Everything that you've seen that got your juices going, that you went, ooh, this is great, like that headline David showed you. Okay, that's a swipe. And you hang on to that so that it can juice something later. There's this website called swipe.co that compiles some. That's not complete by any stretch of the imagination, but it's there. You can subscribe to newsletters. Some of them are great and some of them are terrible, but you can probably always get a decent idea. Newspapers, regular old newspapers, newsprint can be great. Tabloids, magazines, news services, television, okay? So, like, for instance, here, I chopped off the number 1 on Reddit today because it was very specific to a news story that really isn't something you probably could use for fodder. But these are the other top ranked 2 through 8 stories that were on Reddit earlier this afternoon. Okay, Canada ranked number 1 in list of countries that care most about international rankings. Okay, that's a joke, yet think about that. Canada ranked number 1. Such and such ranked number 1 in companies that XYZ. Okay. The Centennial Light is the world's longest lasting bulb, burning since 1901. It's often cited as evidence for the existence of planned obsolescence in later produced light bulbs. Ooh.
That's not true. I know where there's one from the 1800s still burning. I was there and saw it.
But here's the thing, okay? But here's the thing.
My little
You've got a curiosity. You've got a curiosity play for the Centennial light bulb. Ooh, this is a cool thing. I want to learn about this. Evidence for the existence of planned obsolescence. Ooh, you've got a conspiracy theory on top of it. And you could, man, I'd click on that every day of the week. Burger King deviously explains net neutrality by making people wait longer for Whoppers.
God, who wants to wait longer for a Whopper? That pissed me off.
But here's the one out of all of these. There are 2 in here that I think are the best ones, which is school bus full of children sliding out of control. Could have been a lot worse. Now, it could have been a lot worse. You could change that into anything, and it could be, you could take any terrifying scenario and put that in there and go with it. It's pretty cool. And then the very last one, I left some chocolate in a hotel with a note saying, "That's for you, have a great day. That's what I got in return." Well, you got to click on that because you want to know.
I like that one, yeah.
What did they leave to?
Yeah, thanks a lot. Where's my damn...
Okay, but that's a fantastic curiosity play. And
it is.
Particularly when you're looking at subject lines, things that make people want to open the email. Now that's really long, so you'd have to figure out a way to chop that to something a little bit shorter. But that's the kind of thing that, humans are curious beasts. We've got to know.
You know,
So that's a great one.
going back to what you just said, I just want to speak to that for a second, because what I said way early in this was when you can combine curiosity with a solid, benefit, you got a winner. And I am a sucker for curiosity headlines. Now, I mean, you could just write nothing but curiosity headlines and you get me all day long. But
Yep.
I'm not the norm. But that's why I said when you can combine those two. But you're right, Christine. I mean, curiosity, we are curious beings. Otherwise, there would not be all the news programs, the stuff about celebrities. I mean, I don't understand why anybody cares about celebrities, but oh my God, look at the programs on TV. I mean, all this stuff. Look at what's popular on television, what people watch and watch and watch, full of curiosity. So you're absolutely right.
And here,
we are curious
what
beings. You're right.
What we're looking at here are Twitter trending today. Okay, now some of these, like the $1,000 shoes as a gift, that's got to be something where people paid for it because it's been up for 3 weeks, and it's like, yeah, probably not. But there are some of these that I think are. Yeah. But like the Megyn Kelly escalates feud with Jane Fonda, that is something that's actually been trending. I've been seeing stories about that for the last couple of days. Basketball player goes sledding. I don't follow sports, so I don't know if that's a famous basketball player, but if it is, that could be really good. I flew the private jet. No bloody idea what that's about, but it's a guy in a mask with a picture, which also, by the way, notice these all have pictures, right? These are all trending and they all have pictures. And that leads me to another question that we just got from Peter. Where'd it go? Do you use images in your email marketing? When we need them, we sure do. In our finance niche in particular, if you can put up a chart, a market chart, that's, we jokingly say that's pornography for people in finance. So definitely that, particularly if you can make it a clickable link that goes to a specific video or opens something up. But I've also used art really effectively with a headline and sometimes in place of a headline.
I sent Mark just a dollar sign once, a big image of a dollar sign. It was actually some cool artwork. And he said, don't send me porn anymore. So yeah.
This is, trying to remember where I pulled these from. Oh dear, I don't remember now. It's terrible. Where did I pull those from? YouTube. Is that right? No, the other one, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. The one I just showed you was YouTube. I apologize. The one I just showed you was YouTube. This is Twitter. Grumpy Cat awarded more than $700,000 in a copyright lawsuit. Letter claims to shed light on the only successful Alcatraz escape. And then we have this one where they've made it too long and it goes off ... which is infuriating to a lot of people, and they have to click. That awkward moment when you, a fast walker, need to what? You need to what? You need to pass somebody, you need to not step in doggy doo, what? So these are all things that lead you to want to know more. Grumpy Cat's got the humor in it. The Alcatraz one's the secret. That one, if you're a fan of Gary Bencivenga, that one in particular, only successful Alcatraz escape. For those who follow Bencivenga and are familiar with the Cracker Jack secret, is there any bigger Cracker Jack secret than the only successful escape from the place that's unescapable? Yeah, that's a pretty big one. And then this is in Australia. And it's called Northern Times, Mark?
Northern Territories.
Northern Territories, okay. And these are a bunch of the headlines. And as you can see, this is a tabloid style publication. In the US, you'd be looking at something like New York Daily News or David's favorite,
with
the
the fish.
National.
Why I stuck my cracker up my clacker? Are you serious?
Now, these are like, You got to
See,
admit,
that's why I don't come visit you in Australia, Mark. You guys are sick down there.
these are clickbait as heck. Okay, you look at these, and trouser snake on a plane.
They don't call it down under for a reason, do they?
Um,
Sticking my cracker in a clacker. Oh,
I've got
God.
rhubarb. Obama gets croc insurance.
I like the man
Horny.
stabbed with a fish.
Man stabbed with a fish, yeah. Horny Roo stalks Northern Territory's women. They stole my dog while I was on the bog.
It says catnappers shave my pussy. So let's move on to something cleaner, folks.
Well, now wait a minute. Okay, we were talking
I saw my dog while I was on the bog. The bog? I thought I was on a blog. They have bogs in Australia, Mark?
They call them toilets.
Ah,
Dog. They stole my dog while I was on the bog.
A bog is the toilet? So they stole his dog while he was sitting on the cam.
Oh my gosh. Okay, but here's the thing. Okay,
You learn something
how I
folks.
talked about, I talked about that subject line, right? We got that subject line, which is the F ... right? Your way to the top. These are that kind of thing. They're a little more explicit than what we're used to in the US, but if you played with these for a jumping off point, they could certainly get the job done, particularly if you're tweeting or you're doing something on Facebook and you need to grab people's attention in a nanosecond. So I think that definitely has some,
I think these are clickbait kind of stuff, which works for some, and that's the thing, I mean, you want to be a little bit careful. If you take something like this stuff you're looking at right here and you throw it at the wrong audience, you're gonna just never look back.
Well, you have to be aware of your audience for sure.
Trousers. Snakes on a Plane. Anybody remember that movie? The worst movie ever made in the history of movies. Now they got trouser snake on a plane here in this. Yeah, you would not use this stuff, guys.
It depends.
However, it's making them a lot of money. So I mean, literally, my daughter is a accountant, and she has a client, and she, like I said, she does bookkeeping and boring stuff. But these guys do clickbait stuff, and they make something like $20 million a month with these websites. And I've looked at them and stuff, and they're crazy. But hey, you can't argue because she's an accountant. I know how much they're making. So yes, this stuff works for them. Beautiful. It's making them a fortune. But would we use this talking, in our financial niche? No. The F word, Christine used it the other day, and she won't use it again for probably a year because, it works once a year, and it works great. But you have to look at your audience, and I think the important thing is, what is it they're really looking for? I mean, speak their language. If you talk like a 20-year-old to a 60-year-old, they're going to shake their head and walk away.
Right. Now, when you're talking about
their
the finance,
language, talk about what they care about. Talk to them like you're their best friend.
Right.
Don't just take ideas that you think are clever and funny and put them out at the wrong audience. It'll backfire like you've never seen.
Now, when you're talking about the finance niche, which we do a lot of writing for, which is one of the toughest niches, by the way, it can be incredibly rewarding. It's one of the most rewarding niches too, but it is hard. One thing you can do that's very effective is subscribe to things that talk about your market. Okay. And this is one of my homepages today from Financial Times. And as you can see, we've got bickering hurts hopes of immigration and deal in the U.S. History suggests Trump tariffs could backfire. Tax havens retain allure for U.S. techs. Senate confirms somebody. We don't really care about that. Reasons why Trump decided to go to Davos. Tactical misstep. Trump and the many meanings of genius. Okay. And, you could look at any of these articles and pull a single factoid out of one of these articles that you could then write your whole headline, your whole sales, not sales page necessarily, but an email or whatever out of this information, because research is so important. And the reason we're showing you all of these different places to look is because there is a method to this madness. Okay, you're not just going, oh, let me bring up 15 tabs of things and see if something hits me. If you know you're going to be in the finance niche, and you know that you're bringing a product, say for options traders, just off the top of my head, you need to know what it is option traders care about right now. You may find it in Financial Times, but in reality, and Mark, you can speak to this more, but in reality, there's a pretty simple two-step process that you use, which is to go to two places where you will find the majority of the people and what those things are that are really driving them. Now, in your process, Mark, do you prefer to look at YouTube first, or do you prefer to look at Google first?
I probably, if we're talking about the financial niche, I'd probably look at Forbes, or I've got a bunch of newsletters that I subscribe to, and I'd look for ideas for subject lines or leads from those. And as I was going to, as I was, scrolling through anything that I was looking at, what stops me? So if I'm looking at subject lines, and I've got it set up so I can look at 50 at the same time, which one catches my eye? And I might use that as an idea, can I, and sometimes there's a great lead or headline or subject line that just doesn't work. What was the first one? We can jump back to when you were talking about headlines, not headlines, when you were talking about ideas for headlines. What was the first slide? Yes, that go down, the Canada one. That's stuck in my mind. So you got to be able to use it. So if you were in the weight loss niche, for example, how would you use those? Because that's the whole point. So you might say Canada is ranked #1 for weight loss in the world. The Centennial light bulb is the longest lasting light bulb, burning since 1901, and reveals a secret how you could use this for weight loss. Burger King deviously explains how to lose weight eating their burgers. School bus full of children come up with an idea, an exercise, and how to lose weight. Amen to that, and 50 pounds loss. You've got to be able to turn those things into headlines. So some of them, not all of them, will lend themselves to that. But if you will be able to narrow it in, but in your particular niche. So my process is generally to try and think of something #1 by myself, and if I got stuck, I'll go to my go-tos, which is usually something in my email box, and if that doesn't work, #3, then I'll go to the net.
Okay. We were talking just a day or so ago, you and I, about one thing that we know Perry Belcher showed us how to do, and that is you can go in and go to YouTube and type in your keyword. Okay, like say we're talking options, right? Trading options or whatever, beginners trading options, whatever, and bring up those results and then filter it not by most recent, but by views.
Yep.
Find the ones that have the most views, then take that subject line or the keywords from that subject line from YouTube and throw it into Google and see what comes up. That helps you refine it even further. And then, like I said, beginners, right? That was because I was thinking in my head of how Perry showed us how to do this, which is you take that bit of YouTube information on trading options, and then you put options trading in Google, and Google comes back with, oh, here, let me give you 15 beginning options trader for beginners, or I want to learn to trade options or whatever. So you find out that the niche is skewed toward people who don't know how to do it and want to learn.
But there's two
So,
different things going on there, though. And in terms of YouTube, for example, if you sort it by views, that's every one of those views is a vote, right? So that's going to give you a much better result, and it's probably going to give you something you never thought of, because you might look at the number one thing and think, it's not what I would have done, but you can't argue if something's got 50 million views. You're never going to write better than that. Google, on the other hand, his job is to try and give you the most relevant thing, not the most viewed thing. So it's going to give you a different perspective. But generally, if you looked at the results, you'd see something that would interest you that you could use.
Right. So we are now to the actual Q&A section of the program. And what we want to find out now are the questions we didn't answer. And I've got a laundry list of them here. So give me 1 second. Okay. Mary wants to know, what's the recommended number of subscribers to use for a good split testing sample?
Well, normally, there's different things in testing, but it's hard to get something that you can hang your hat on if you're not testing with at least 10,000 subscribers. And if you've only got 1,000, then you don't have a choice. And if you had 1,000, then you might be better just halving that list and learning for things going forward. But if you've got 10,000 subscribers, and let's say that you have a 10% open rate, you've got 1,000 and 10% click through, you've got 100 people. So 100 people to try and get a good result from is hard. So it's the more the better. We usually, because we can afford or we have the size to do it, we usually test with about 50 to 70,000 people. But most people won't be able to do that. So you got to contrive some kind of way that makes sense. So if I had 1,000 people, I would just try different things in different days, or I would split the list, and then going forward, I'd take a mental note that this worked better. And as I approach 5,000, you could probably do some kind of split test. You could maybe take 2,000. And remember, the split test is also the ability to sell. So you're not losing anything by doing a test. And then, as you get to that 50,000 mark, 60,000, I'd probably do a three-way test. You can start thinking about testing 3 different things.
Okay, excellent. Alan wants to know, could everyone on the panel recommend an author or book on copywriting apart from the obvious that I could check out?
Check out?
As in, check out and go find out about it.
Yeah, okay, because if we're talking about the library, I don't know.
Well, they might be at the library. I don't know.
Probably one of the best ones is Scientific Advertising by Claude Hopkins.
That's what I was just going to say. I agree 100% with Mark.
The language is old and the ideas are old, but the concepts are still as relevant today as they were then.
Definitely. David, that story, it's really a short story. It's not so much a book. I'm not sure what it came from. The Mr. Obvious thing.
Oh.
It's not Mr. Obvious, is it? It's Mr. I know the one you're talking about.
No,
too.
it's hang on a second.
I figure you probably have it right there.
Yeah, but I got to play with stuff. No, it's not going to work. Give me a second.
Another one I'd recommend would be Breakthrough Advertising. Again, language is a little old. Some of the concepts, you have to work on translating it, particularly if you're in the online niche. You have to translate that to the online niche, but it's pretty easy to do. And I find that's one of those books that if I'm stuck, I can start just paging through that and I will find something that inspires me, usually within 5-10 minutes.
And for a free resource, probably Gary Halbert's newsletter.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And, while that and the Benson
Obvious
bullets.
Adams.
Obvious
Obvious Adams.
Obvious Adams.
Obvious Adams.
Yeah, that was a great. I'm trying to think where we got that. Oh, I just brought it up. I'm going to try and Updegraph is the author. This is probably, I think it's out of, what is going on? True Story, Successful Businessman by Robert R. Updegraph. Harper and Brothers, New York and London. Anyway, I think it's out of September 9th, 1915. I think it's pretty easy to find because I believe it's, what do they call it? You know, it's out of print.
Out of print. Out of print.
Yeah, I mean, it's like free. In other words, I don't think you got to pay for it. Obvious Adams. I think if you Google that, you'll find it. Yeah, that's a great one, isn't it, guys?
Yeah.
I love that.
Very much. Very much.
Short read, easy read, read between the lines. That's all I got to say.
Definitely read between the lines. We've gone a bit longer than I think we anticipated today, but I hope that we give you guys good information. Got one thing here. It says, not a question, but a comment. Great webinar. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Thanks. Thank you. You're welcome. We've got quite a few people that we've read your questions. So if we read your questions out, we will be sending you a copy of Ogilvy on Advertising. If you go to our link. Now, let me show you these last couple of slides really quickly. If you want to talk to us about how we could help you improve your business profits, you can drop us a line at scientificcopy.com/client. And if you want to learn how to do what we do, obviously, we love talking about it. We would be happy to talk to you, and you can reach us at scientificcopy.com/learn copy. And for those of you that we read your question on the webinar and answered it, we will be sending you a copy of Ogilvy on Advertising unless you're one of the people we sent Ogilvy on Advertising to last time, in which case you can tell us that and we'll see about sending you something else.
Maybe we'll see if we can send them Obvious
Scientific.
Adams.
Yeah, I would love to do that. We'll have to check that out. Scientific.com/David Ogilvy is how to get the Ogilvy on Advertising. So I hope, I'm sure we all hope, that you enjoyed this, that you learned something from it. We will be putting this webinar, recorded webinar, on our YouTube channel, and you'll be able to find the links for that within the next day or so off of our webpage as well. So we need to start, I need to start including that link on these. I apologize that I didn't. We'll make sure we put it on here. That you can go straight to our YouTube channel and watch this, so that if you want to review anything, look at Mark's statistics, look at those headlines and practice them, take them apart, make them better. That would be awesome. We'd love to see that, because that's going to be the way that you perfect what you need to do. So, gentlemen, do you have any last thoughts you want to add?
Nope. See you next week.
Yeah. Next time we'll show you some good headlines. We showed you some good ones and some bad ones today. We'll try and show
that was
them.
the point, to show them a little of both. The other thing I want to get into in the future, and we have so many things we want to talk about, but the questions that came up about art, I think those are really important, not just in headlines, but art overall is something we need to get into. And I've actually got some really good resources for free art that is copyright free as well, stuff you can legally use that you don't have to pay for. So that could be something that could be very helpful. I hope you had a great time. This is Christine Potter signing off and saying thank you for me, Mark McRae, and David
Thanks,
Franklin.
Guys.
Bye, guys.
We'll
Have
see
a
you
great
next
day.
week. Bye.
Bye.